We're going to walk through an example of setting targets using option 1, where we generate targets based on coverage. And I've started here at the Getting Started page. So I can show you, if you select this cell here, the necessary input steps will be indicated on the navigation bar. We're going to set populations, continuation, and targets. So I've already completed some of these steps. There are separate tutorials on setting populations, but just sort of show you the process. We've chosen serodiscordant couples, adolescent girls and young women in 2 groups, and then created a custom group for minors, artisanal minors. Next, we went to continuation, and we've entered in the continuation rates for each of these different groups and applied the continuation curves to each group here. And again, there's a separate tutorial on rates and how to enter this data in. Next, I'm going to move to targets. We can start by setting the target setting period using these drop-down menus. So I'm going to set a 3-year target setting period here. This can go up to 10 years. And next we have to put in information around population size, prevalence, and the percent indicated for PrEP. And we can get assistance with that using the Target Setting Support tab. On the Target Setting Support tab, we provide some default values for national priority population sizes and HIV prevalence, as well as the percent indicated for PrEP. So scrolling down, you can see both what these default values are and the sources or assumptions that were used to generate them. I'm going to start with SDCs, and I'm going to be selecting these national priority population sizes. However, if PrEP is not being applied nationally, then you can adjust these on the next page. So we can just go ahead and select these here. As with all defaults, people are welcome to use them, and they're welcome to not use them if they have better data available to them. For minors, we don't have default data for that. So hopefully one has a good understanding of what their population is for their custom groups. Similarly, for HIV prevalence, we're putting in 0. For serodiscordant couples. For AGYW, we'll go ahead and use the defaults here. You can either look at them and type them in, or you can press equals and select the value that you want. Select that cell and hit enter, and you'll get that. Similarly for minors, you're going to have to put in your own estimate. In terms of the percent indicated for PrEP, that can mean a couple of things, and I think there's a little note here. This could mean the percent estimated who would be eligible for PrEP, or those considered to be at elevated risk for PrEP. So for serodiscordant couples, give some advice on this below. We say it would be all persons in a serodiscordant relationship minus the percent of SDCs who are virally suppressed. So if you know the percentage of serodiscordant couples where the partner is virally suppressed, you could factor that in here. So I'm just going to say we're living in a place where approximately half are virally suppressed. For AGYW, perhaps you're going to think more of like who are at the high risk, and this could vary, and a lot of discussion has been put into what makes an AGYW eligible or indicated for PrEP. And without having a precise answer, we give you some benchmarks here around DHS analysis about the percent who presented with STI symptoms in the past year, or the percent who reported multiple partners and having condomless sex. So these are sort of benchmarks that can help guide your discussions around this for you to choose the appropriate one. And based on this, I'm just going to choose kind of somewhere in the middle. I'm going to choose 1% for this group and 2% for that. But again, there are no right answers, and it's definitely possible people have their own data that they can bring to this. Again, for minors, I'm going to say maybe 50%. So that's how you fill in that tab, and one can skip this support tab if they want to and just fill it in directly here. But we wanted to provide that guidance and help if necessary. You can see that we have one missing, and that's the percent PrEP eligible in geographic areas. And there's a note here. This is to say that if you're using national numbers to estimate population size, but you are not providing PrEP nationally, that you can adjust those national numbers here. So if I was only, providing PrEP to a few different locations that made up about a quarter of the population, I would put in 25% there. And this can vary. So maybe it's 25% for these first three groups, but we're providing it to more like, 100% of the minors because they're clustered in a certain geographic region. So moving down, you can see that the continuation curves that were previously specified have carried over to this tab. And then we can move to scale-up trends. At least one scale-up trend, which is how you plan on rolling out your program, needs to be specified, but we give space for up to 3 different scale-up trends. And so here there are 3 different shapes to consider. There's S-shaped, linear, and constant. Let's start with constant. That's if you're giving a steady amount of PrEP each month. And so these are usually for programs that have matured and now they are, have reached a stabilization point and expecting a steady amount of PrEP each month. Second is linear. This is more for ramping up programs where they expect to give more PrEP each month to be delivered throughout the whole target setting period. And third is S-shaped. This is the most common scale-up trend where one starts small and gradually builds up to the point where they're building up rapidly and then eventually leveling off. So those are the 3 shapes to specify. You could have 3 S-shaped curves, but you have to have, again, at least one. You can set the midpoint of the S-shaped curve, and that's the month throughout the period where you are expected to be reaching peak scale up. So that's the steepest point of the curve. And so you can move that. I've set that at 15 months. You could move it to the 1-year point, or you could move it to the 2-year point, and you can see how that shifts the shape of the curve. Let's put it back to 15 months. You can also adjust the speed of scale up. And there's no distinctive number that you have to put in here, but rather you can play around with this number to make it more steep, indicating a steeper ramp up and leveling off, or you can make it more gentle, slope, and you can just sort of play around till you get the best visual representation of what your scale up is intended to do. So once you've set your scale up trends, you can apply them to your priority population. So I'm going to give the constant to my SDCs, and I'm going to apply the S-shaped to my other 3 populations. Next, we select from our target setting options of 1, 2, 3. Here I said we were setting targets based on coverage, so we're going to select to option 1. And with option 1, we have to enter the percent coverage for each priority population. So that's the percent of potential users in each population who we want to be taking PrEP at the end of the target setting period. And so usually realistic values of that are certainly under 100%. And you have to kind of discuss with your groups who are working on target setting to figure out what's the most realistic percentages to set. So I'm going to just put in 30% for SDCs, 10% for AGYW, and maybe 25 for minors. So again, these are just numbers that I'm putting in based on my fictional scenario. And next for option 1, what you need to do next is run this solver button. So you press this button. And then what's happening is that the Excel is solving the equation that is saying, given the number of potential users, the continuation rates, and the scale-up pattern, how many clients need to initiate PrEP in order to reach those coverage percentages by the end of the target setting period. And so we get our targets here based on that. That is all that is needed for this tab. Please refer to the user guide for more information, and thank you for watching.